balls,
ghoulies,
chaps,
tackle,
knackers,
chaise long and armchairs.
dangleberries. Manscaped even threw in 2 free gifts to their Performance Package 4.0, the Manscaped Boxers and Shed Travel Bag. Bring your comfort and boxers to another level.
Cojones,
Pebbles,
gonads,
plums,
family jewels, brass clankers.
The 4th generation trimmer features our cutting-edge ceramic blade to reduce grooming accidents thanks to their advanced skin-safe technology. It's also waterproof and has a 4K LED spotlight if you need a more advanced shave.
eggs,
Itchy and Scratchy, Mitchell Brothers,
jewels,
Hanging Brain,
twin bank robbers,
Chaps, Walnuts,
gobstoppers,
Gooseberries.
stabilizers.
The Manscaped 4.0 bundle. It reduces your risk of getting an ingrowing hair, it keeps them clean, it keeps them tidy, and it also increases your chance of fellatio by about 15%. That works out about 2% if you're married. So, you know. Anyway, enter the code TWW20 into the checkout. That's TWW20 into the checkout, and you can get yourself a 20% discount. Not too shabby, eh?
For our European listeners, Velata, Testicular, Good afternoon, good evening, good morning, and welcome to another edition of Hello from the Other Side, a TWW podcast. This week, as you know, there's a big game, the last game of the regular season, coming up on Sunday against our, the neighbours-ish. It's very close. It's Derby County, and this evening I'm joined by Jason from the Rams Review. Jason, thank you very much for joining us. You all right?
No problem at all, Ash. Yeah, thanks for inviting me on. I'm good. Yeah, unfortunately, we was hoping to get over that white line on Saturday against Portsmouth. Didn't in the end. So yeah, maybe the first of 3 coming up, and hopefully we can at least get something out of this one.
You're not wrong, mate. Looking at the fixtures, and obviously it's well documented how shit we've been in the last few weeks. It was going to be a dead rubber, and that was it. It was going to be all over and done with. It was going to be a party, but no, it's not to be. So on Sunday, we've got things to play for, and obviously, what's your thoughts? I mean, you come in. I've got a couple of notes here, so forgive me. Us watching and listening to this aren't been following Derby that often, but obviously, you've last few games, you've won, lost, won, drawn, and drawn. So a bit indifferent.
Yeah, we've done something pretty much similar to yourselves this season. After sacking Liam Rossini after 9 games, and we were sat 7th in the table playing a style of football, we bring in obviously Paul Warne. I'm sure a few of your fans will know all about him. Completely changed the style, completely changed the formation, completely changed pretty much everything about Derby. One of the things that he certainly did was work on their fitness. We thought it was probably the one thing. Well, he's being an ex-fitness coach, it's the one thing that he drills into players. He took 2 or 3 games to get going. We could sort of see a pattern. He tried various pegs in various holes. A couple of players you guys will know very well in Mendes Lang and things like that. He tried to play as a wing back. It didn't work. He then sort of accepted that he'd got to go with what he got to go with, and then he did it. We went on this unbeaten run, which obviously only I think you kind of matched and succeeded in this division, and it got ended. The unbeaten run got ended in a 2-0 home loss in the FA Cup to West Ham. No real disgrace there. We didn't necessarily lay a glove on them, and then we went to Wycombe away, who obviously at the time were right in the mix. The game finished 3-2, and actually we lost that game 3-2. It was our first defeat, I think, in 16 league games. And then ever since then, we took a bit of a nosedive. We've taken points from games. In all fairness, we probably didn't deserve to. We've battered teams and not taken what we've deserved. You know, we've not actually taken out of the game what we deserved to. And so we went on a bit of a spin. I think we lost 3 or 4 in like 5. We'd not won in 5 at home. Previous to that, we'd lost to Fleetwood about 3 or 4 weeks ago, and that was our first defeat at home all season. A few draws. We haven't lost any others at Port Vale we lost earlier on in the season. Fleetwood, that was our second home defeat, and then there's just been a few draws. And then just recently, it's almost like he's tweaked it again. He's changed the formation again. He's brought some players back in different roles, and I think we're unbeaten in 5. I think it is, like you said. I mean, not necessarily playing amazing teams, not necessarily playing amazing football, but we're sort of getting results. Say Saturday was a bit of a disappointment, but we're limping in there is what we're doing. And I suppose whilst you've got that opportunity, I mean, that period when you look from when Derby lost to Wycombe and when they got the next win, I think at those 6 games we played Plymouth away, Ipswich at home, Barnsley away, Wycombe away, Shrewsbury at home. We were playing sides at the top. We were competing in most of them. I think, in all fairness, there's probably only Barnsley in that. Oakwell absolutely blew us apart. Could not cope with them whatsoever. And Ipswich, to be fair, did a bit of a number on us at Pride Park. We lost 2-0, but in all fairness, we were in the game up until they scored. So yeah, it's been a little bit of an indifferent ending to the season. Obviously, I know you guys have kind of done a little bit similar. But I say, yeah, it's unbeaten in 5. We're scratching results, but overall, our play isn't all that bad. We're just not, for some reason, we've just stopped putting the ball in the back of the net, and it's costing us big time at the minute.
Yeah, I totally agree with what you said there, because I mean, obviously it's documented how shit we've properly naffed the league up. I've got to say that, because we have. It was all looking rosy. Was it the 21st of March? I think the date that we've done, that we're 5 points clear, 2 games in hand, and obviously done it. But obviously in that run for both of us, forgive me, that obviously we had the home leg at the is it Pride Park? Is it
it's back to Pride Park now?
Is it back to iPro or something?
It was, yeah. No, it's back to Pride Park now.
Back to Pride Park. So we had a 0-0 draw, and for me personally, I hated the game. I thought we were really negative. Didn't want to win the game, but obviously looking at it, it was a great result because you were in some cracking form. So obviously kept our unbeaten run as well going. So it turned out to be good, but it wasn't a classic by any stretch of the imagination. Not that I can remember. I didn't look at the highlights, but I don't think there's any clear-cut, absolute standout performances or standout moments of the game, which that just tells you a lot about a 0-0, doesn't it?
Yeah, for me, it was one of them going into it from a Derby perspective. Obviously, that was Paul Warren's about 7th or 8th game in charge, I think it was. He just started to find that little bit of rhythm. And obviously, Sheffield Wednesday coming at home, you were I'm pretty sure you was top of the table at the time. And it was right. I think we might have even been 3rd or 4th. Obviously, we were up until a few weeks ago challenging as well for automatics. And obviously, in the end, that's absolute blown us away. But we were in that, and it was like, right, this, as you would, this is a marker, and it was an absolute damp squib of a game, wasn't it? It was very boring. I don't remember too much happening. I vaguely remember Derby having a bit of a shout for a penalty, but other than that, I don't think there was a great deal in it. And as you say, 2 decent sides at the time in form, just kind of, as you say, it happens. They just cancelled each other out, and I mean, I'll take that all day long, Sunday, because that's I think that's all we need. So that'll be great.
Yeah, I think that was. I think it was about a week after that 0-0 that I put a bet on, and I work in Derby. I'm from Sheffield, but I work in Derby, and a lot of Derby supporters. So I put Derby and Sheffield Wednesday, and I'm going to call it out on podcast now, but both to go up. So first and second either way, because I just thought that it would have been. Even though looking at the start of your season, you didn't even look like you're going to have a team, did you?
No.
I mean, for where you are and what you've done this season, it is pretty good. I know you've still got a good chance of the playoffs, all depending what happens on Sunday, like you said. And if I've not looked, but if a draw is what you need, and then I believe that would make it that we would play each other in the playoffs, finishing 3rd and 6th respectively. So it would be. I don't know if what would you think? Obviously, Sundays, it's not a marker for the playoffs because we all know they're not a lottery, but it's totally different game. Even though it's going to be a week later than we've played, so it's 3 games in like just over a week. It'll be a totally different game. So what do you think then? Sunday, Are you going to be happy the way that Paul Warne sets up? Is he going to be resting players? Obviously, you need the point or the win. So it's a bit different from us, where the talk for us is, are we going to rest players? So I don't know what your thoughts are on that.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest with you, Ash, there's been times this season where, as you mentioned, and it's been well documented, Derby haven't got a massive squad at all. We've barely got 13 players that really are fit for this level. The rest of them, we've got a couple of academy products in there, a couple of loanees who haven't really hit the heights that we've wanted them to be quite honest. But so we've got that regular 13. So there's been points in this, obviously in the unbeaten run, we wanted to change various things. As soon as it started going a little bit south, we wanted to change things to try and build up that momentum. But in all honesty, there isn't that much Derby can change. If the shoe was on the foot and we were going into this game and we knew we were in sixth, I think the only probably two people who we would think about resting. Two people I think you'll know quite well. One of them is Nathaniel Mendez-Lang, who's been an absolute revelation at Derby this year, and a friend from a good friend from down the road at Bramall Lane, obviously David McGoldrick, who's been on absolute fire, and he's playing. He's training once a week and playing every single minute of every single game at 35. They'd be the only two. But the fact that Derby have got to go into this one. Obviously, they've got to better Peterborough's result, and Peterborough go to Barnsley. If Derby lose, Peterborough have got to win by 3 goals. Sorry, if Derby get a point, Peterborough have got to win by 3 goals. I don't see that happening. So it's it's almost said and done, but it's one of them, innit? I mean, obviously you'll remember better than I will. I'm sure. But we've only got to go back 2 years ago, the final game of the season against us at Pride Park in COVID, and what that meant to both sides.
Sorry, Jason, we've got 10 minutes in, and you've mentioned it. So
well, I have to. I have to mention it. Yeah, we've done well.
I didn't want to.
No, I know, but it's got that feeling about it. But obviously, personally, for a positive instead of a negative. And I remember, obviously, none of us could go to that game, and I remember sitting in my shed watching it, and it was. I mean, even at 3-1 up, I'd seen how Derby had played that year. We were awful, so I wasn't convinced. And yeah, obviously it goes, and we were down with 8 minutes to go. We were gone. Obviously, it managed to turn around, but yeah, it feels very similar on Sunday. You're owed a bit of payback. I have to say that. I'm hoping, in all fairness, from where Derby were, getting into the playoffs would be an amazing achievement. Don't get me wrong. If you're in them, you want to go well. You want to get to Wembley, of course you do, and you want to win it. But I think from just getting there, so if Derby can navigate Sunday correctly, and just get into the playoffs, I think that's a big tick. I don't necessarily think it was the read when he came in this season. We're under so many financial restrictions. We would barely be able to build a side for the Championship. I think a lot of Derby fans will say, really, staying down here, you don't ever want to pass up an opportunity, do you? But logically, if you could guarantee that we were going to go up next year, I think you'd take that. But it is what it is, and I honestly don't know what's going to happen. Derby will certainly be full strength, no doubt about that. Obviously, the chat with my mates has been, what they're going to do with the likes of Bannon, Matt Smith, I can't, the other guy up front who we had, Gregory. Aidan Flint. There's various players that are going to cause Derby massive problems on Sunday, and with them missing, that just increases our chances. But it's like you said, it's difficult. What do you do? I think chances are we're going to end up playing each other in the playoffs.
Yeah.
Do you give too much away? Do you spring something? Obviously, Darren Moore, Derby, not legend, but a big player at Derby when he was there for a couple of years and got us into the Premier League. It's a tactical one. It's going to be fascinating to see how it pans out. And yeah, I'm looking forward to it, but not looking forward to it, if you know what I mean. It's one of those games, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely. It could have been for both teams a lovely day out, lovely Sunday afternoon. It could have been, but like I've mentioned before, and we've mentioned on our podcast lots of times, we've proper shot ourselves in the foot for whatever reason it is, and it just comes down to what happens with Darren Moore and his tactics, how he wants to play it. Like you said, Derby have to make sure Derby have got to try and go for the win. Excuse me. On the other hand, Sheffield, we are guaranteed third place, so it's not a. It would just be the momentum for us. If we changed it, wholesale changed. Not that we can, because we are suffering from injuries and out of form players as well. So it'd be if it was a wholesale change. Apologies. What would a 2-0 loss at home, a 3-0, or a really good performance from Derby? What would that mentally do to us? So I don't think Darren Moore wants to do that. I really don't. I think he's going to try and go as strong as possible, because it is. I think it's. Is it the Friday? Is it the first? Yes.
Yeah, the
Friday,
the home game will be on the Friday night, and then it's the following Saturday at something like 12:30 kickoff on the Saturday.
They've changed it.
Oh, they changed it, right?
They have. They changed it. I think it was yesterday because it was a lot. So it's Friday for the hour away, which would be your home, and then it's Thursday night. So it's a trip up to Sheffield on Thursday night for
right. Okay,
whatever.
So right.
Don't. It's a very
weird.
It is a bit weird. So that's what the South Yorkshire Police have done. So they're not friends of many Wednesday fans. So you can imagine the Twitter vitriol they got yesterday and continues to do today. But hey ho. So on your summing up there, you did mention a few ex-Sheffield Wednesday players. A player that I quite liked, but never really cemented a place with Joe Wildsmith. I thought ex-under-21, England under-21 keeper. Out of the two that we had at the time, him and Cameron Dawson, I always fancied Wildsmith above him. But obviously, it's not. He wanted first-team football, and he got guaranteed it with Derby, didn't he? When he obviously moved on for free in the summer. So what's been your? I believe he's been number one all season virtually. So
every minute.
Is that just a lack? No disrespect. Is it a lack of depth that he hasn't had anyone challenging him? Has he been signed as a number one? What's the thought?
It's one of those where obviously you look at it from the flip side. Now I know Derby's transfer dealings in the summer where we can get hold of who might be able to play at this level. It was. So when that signing was announced, and obviously he's been at Sheffield Wednesday, ex-England England international, but he's always been a second choice keeper at the age of 25, 26. We all kind of scratched our heads a little bit. And when one of Derby's biggest Achilles heels over the last 4 or 5 years since we lost Scott Carson is our goalkeepers have been awful, absolutely awful. So we was a little bit worried. We signed goalkeepers that couldn't catch a ball. It was incredible. So when you hear you're signing Sheffield Wednesday's second choice goalkeeper, we're a little bit like, okay. And I genuinely do think he probably was brought in and expected not to be number one, definitely. I think some competition was due. And I just don't think they could find anybody. And then they did sign a young lad from West Ham on loan. He fractured his arm in the second training session and had to go back. And then since then, but by then we were a few games down the line. And I'll tell you now, he's the best goalkeeper Derby have had since Scott Carson. And that sounds derogatory because of what I've said about the others. He is genuinely everything from a goalkeeper that I want to see. He can command his area. He commands his area so well. He's probably made 2 mistakes all year.
Well, bloody hell! I think Paul Warren's done a job on him then, because or your coaching setup, because that's 2 things out Sheffield Wednesday fans would not have thought would hear. His commanding and his ability to make fuck ups.
Yeah, no, I know what you're saying. Yeah. No, he's made. I don't know if he's obviously just on a roll. He was obviously up until a while ago. He was, I think he was ahead on clean sheets. He'd kept so many clean sheets when we were doing well. There's been a couple of real mess ups. That has cost us goals. There's a couple of saves, a couple of goals we've conceded where you think, do you know what, you should be doing better there. But balance that out on some of the saves he's made and kept us in games. Some of the saves he's made this year have been at crucial times, has been incredible. And I think I speak for a lot of Derby fans. He's an absolute steal for free. For me personally, absolute steal. If he can go ahead and repeat it again for another year, or if we've just got him for one golden year, whatever it may well be. But he has been he's been a very, very, very solid number one. And he was very close to our player of the year. David McGoldrick won it because he's scored God knows how many goals. But yeah, I think he would have been certainly in the top three, probably second. He has been great, which as I say has been refreshing for Derby, because of some of the goalkeepers we've had over the last 3 or 4 years just haven't been able to do what we see as the basics of goalkeeping, and he's come in, done all that, and he's looked assuring. He's looked solid. You're not scared when a ball comes into the box. His reflex saves are great. His agility is brilliant. I can't remember who it was against. He made a double save against a team earlier on this year, and I mean, how he got to it, I do not know. In fact, if anybody wants to see him, he made a save against Exeter last Tuesday, and it is Gordon Banks-esque. It is incredible from about 4 yards out. I don't know how he managed it.
I don't know. There was a rumor that Joe Wellsmith had a twin brother, and I think you might have signed him there.
Yeah, might have done.
Because that is not the Joe for all the plaudits that he's had in the past and things. In his later time at Sheffield Wednesday, when he did have it may be a confidence thing. It may be because he's had a run of games. He never really had a run of games. He was always an understudy, and he always had mistakes in him and didn't seem the confidence that he should have had. So yeah, he's found a home at Derby, and for me, I don't speak for Wednesday Ikes, but he didn't offend me, and I've got no ill feeling against him. He wanted to play football. He could leave for free. He left. So I mean, for me, yeah.
He's going to be shit now Sunday, isn't he?
Hopefully, of course. Yeah, that's what we want. And quickly, another player that he signed in the summer, Mendez-Laing. I mean, another one that we couldn't wait to see the back of, because he was very sporadic, fits and starts, and he is remembered for being a lazy sod and not tracking back for Sunderland's goal in the playoffs last season. So he's not remembered fairly well for Sheffield Wednesday fan. And if he plays on Sunday, which, like you say, you may rest him, I don't know, I think you may get a few boos, but you never know. But like you say, if he's been outstanding for you, you can only go on the player that you've got playing for you. So
yeah, he came in. Style of play obviously was different when we signed him. He was playing as an out-and-out winger. I don't know how much of a wing-back role he was sort of playing with you guys. But Paul Warne tried to turn him into a right wing-back, and I'll tell you now, I'm a better right wing-back than Mendez-Laing is, and I'm not a footballer. And it took a while for him to learn that just wasn't going to be the case. First half of the season, he was on absolute fire as a winger, absolute fire. Scoring, I think he'd got 11 goal contributions in 19 games. So that's how good he had been in the first half of the season. I will say he has tailed off. On Saturday, he missed a sitter from 6 yards out. So his shooting boots have disappeared a little bit. But over the course of the season, he's won Derby more points than he's lost us. There's no doubt about that. He's tracking back. He tracks back better when he's not a wing back. I know that sounds absolute crazy, but the amount of times playing as a wing back, we'd go, "Where is he?" and he's jogging back. But then we'd lose the ball, we'd turn over possession, and who's making the tackle on the edge of the 6 yard box? It's Mendez-Laing, and you're like, "Well, what's he doing back there? He's playing as a winger." Really strange. I think they've burnt him out a little bit. They have relied on him. As I say, he has played 70, 80 minutes near enough every single week and every single game. And as somebody who's obviously that bit of explosive pace, that type of football, you can probably only really manage 60, 70. It needs to be freshened up, and Derby just haven't had that. So the second half of the season is a complete chalk, not complete chalk and cheese. His goal contributions have been complete chalk and cheese. He has had some of those sporadic performances in the second half of the season, but I do think it's just because he's knackered. We see it where if we've got a midweek game and he plays Saturday, Tuesday, the following Saturday, he doesn't look fit. And then if we've got a 7-day break, he'll then come out and play on fire for 30, 35 minutes. chances are get on the end of something, which is obviously all you need really. But it'll be interesting to see how he what boots he's got on. It'll be what mindset he's got on and what boots he's got on Saturday. I think, but obviously an 8-day break for him from our last game, as we've all had, that might just light the fire underneath him a little bit. But it'll depend how much of the ball Derby get and how much we can survey, service him. You watch the long ball from the centre off over to him on the right hand side, picks it out 4 or 5 times a game, and if Wednesday don't sniff it out, that'll be the way Derby go. It'll be the long ball from the left side, left centre off, straight onto the right wing for him to chase onto. It's a ball we play all the time.
Oh, right, there you are. You've heard it first, Darren Moore. I know you listen, so there you are. I wish he listened. I'm sure he's got other things on his mind. So obviously it's Sunday dinner time. The reports are from Hillsborough that it's a sellout, so we're going to look at nearly just over 34,000, which is fantastic. I know they've reduced the away allocation. I think they gave you 2,300 at most, which it's not our fault. It's the South Yorkshire Police and the safety advisory and all that crap again that's reduced it. But we've obviously took the bottom tier of the Leppings Lane as well, so that's usually sometimes given to the
I've been in there a couple of times. Yes.
And you've survived. So
yes.
You're not a Newcastle fan then. I'll get that in because we've gone about that for months now. But so it's going to be interesting, like we've mentioned. It from the Derby County or your point of view, Jason. Sheffield Wednesday. Any sorts of worries, thoughts on the players or the style of play? Darren Moore, you've said you know Darren Moore yourself. Derby County, Big Dave, I believe his nickname was. So.
He was, yeah. Yeah, I met him in a pub once. Wonderful fella. Straight after the playoff final win in 2007. I mean, an interesting character.
Yeah. He's very obviously with what's happened and stuff. It's very chalk and cheese, like you mentioned before. People still don't like him, don't like his style of play, the way he goes about him. Some people don't even like him because he's a perceived nice guy. Which
yes,
you beggars belief to some people. But yeah, Sunday, Sheffield Wednesday, Dangermen. Who do you think you're going to look? Paul Warne should look out for.
There's only one player in. Well, I say there's only one. From your perspective, there might be more. From my perspective, there's only one person. It's somebody that Derby fans know because we had him on loan. It's Barry Bannon, just an absolute magician, an absolute puppet at this level. I hope he don't play. I think if he don't play, we'll be okay. The last couple of times we've come up against you, we haven't had an answer for him. In my honest opinion, just recently, Conor Horahan, who I'll tell you now, I thought up until 2 months ago, and had an absolute stinker of a season, and then gets in the team of the year. I don't know how that works. It'll be his job.
McGoldrick doesn't.
And McGoldrick doesn't. Yeah. So
we could probably go on for about an hour to review that.
Yes, I know. It's crazy. But no, he'll be the one. I would fully imagine we'll play 3-4-3. With 2 in midfield. We did change it to a 4-4-2 on Saturday, so you might even get that. But the way that we play it with a 3-4-3, they tend to overpack the midfield. So it's 1 up top, 2 10s, and then 2 midfielders. So it's quite busy in and around there. That is, for me, is the biggest. Well, one of the biggest danger men. Obviously, depending on who you play up front, obviously, like you say, I know you're suffering with a few injuries, so I'm not kind of sure who's in and around. If you've got big man Smith up front, I would fully expect Curtis Davis and Aaron Cashin to be at the back for Derby. They're slow as anything, but they're battering rams and they'll win everything in the air. So that'll be an interesting battle. At the other end, Aidan Flint, obviously, if he's about. We do tend to lump hopeless balls into the box, and I fully expect he'll be able to mop them up all day long. If we can get the ball down on the floor, that's a better option for Derby. But the problem is the pace for us is out wide and it's not up front. So we get the balls down the wings, and you'll see McGoldrick and James Collins, if we play 2 up front, they're hanging around on the edge of the D when the ball's coming in because they just can't keep up with play. So there's going to be a little few key critical things there. But yeah, Bannon, obviously, just for what he does. Yeah. And he'll know that Derby's back line, whilst it's solid, is very slow all the way across it. any balls over the top. Fleetwood undid it at Pride Park a couple of times with it a few weeks ago. A couple of the goals we've conceded recently have been on counter attacks. If he can get the right balls in the right areas and split Derby apart, we won't catch you. There's no doubt about it. And we will play. I'd be gobsmacked if we don't play to come and win, because that is Paul Warren's way of doing things, which sometimes works out great. Other times, obviously, it catches us out, and we've had that recently. So, yeah, it'll be all about midfield. For me personally, the midfield battle, as in most games, is massive. But we've got two best players in League One centre midfield, apparently, up against each other on Sunday. So, I think either one of those, whichever one of those shines the best, I think could make a big difference.
Well, I mean, yeah, it's an obviously I've asked this question to a lot of sides coming to Hillsborough or the next we're playing, and Barry Bannon's name always comes up. It's wrong if he doesn't, because like you say, he has been a real good player for us this season. Not our player of the year. Our player of the year was Liam Palmer, which he's been outstanding 99 times out of 100 for us. He's been really good. So he's in. Interesting what you said about the style of play, because obviously we've got, depending on how we play as well, but obviously Gregory and Smith up front, no pace at all between them both. Windass has come back from injury, so if he starts, I doubt it, but I'm sure he'll come on for minutes because he'll need the minutes. Came on at the weekend and looked bright, looked good, looked on it. So hopefully he gets some more minutes. Obviously ready for the playoffs. It's going to be interesting one, mate. Like you say, you're going to come to win, no doubt, because like I said, for us, you don't want to come to Hillsborough and get 3-0, 4-0 or whatever going into playoffs. And then even that may be not good enough for you. So you've got to come and make sure you get 3 points. It's going to be great. Like I said, full house at Hillsborough, always great full house at Hillsborough. I'm going to, it's a bit of a stupid question, but I'm going to get a prediction from you. I know a lot of people don't like predictions and they might as well throw them away, but prediction for Sunday. What are you thinking, Jason?
I really don't know, is my honest answer. I think, if I'm completely honest, if we both put out a full side, I don't see Derby winning it at all. In fact, obviously, I think you've only lost one at home. So I would honestly say, I'm hoping obviously this isn't the case, but I think full strength. Obviously, I don't know, and you probably don't know really as well, how obviously missing out on third place has rocked you and rocked the confidence. I imagine it's from a position of strength that you were in 3 or 4 weeks ago. So I don't know. Obviously, Darren, I've seen him as a captain at Derby. He couldn't really get, he couldn't rally Derby in the Premier League as a centre-half. So obviously I know that's completely different as a manager. So it'd be interesting to see how they react. So I can only really go on the Sheffield Wednesday that I've seen for the majority of the season. And if that Sheffield Wednesday turns up against Derby, I can't see Derby winning it. And to be honest, I'm not sure Derby will get anything out of the game. Hopefully, that doesn't mean that we miss out on the playoffs. And then from a Derby's perspective, it'll be a case of refocus, regroup. And then it's a 2-game shootout, isn't it? Obviously, this result Sunday might have some bearing on it, but again, it's a 2-game shootout. You're absolutely right. I don't think we're going to want to come and get beat for 3-4-0. He made the mistake at Oakwell a few weeks ago. He thought we could go gung-go with them, and they just picked us off. I know that Wednesday have got that quality. I'd be surprised if he changes too much about it. I really would. He might not quite go as gung-ho. All the football cliches are going to come out. First goal's important, all that kind of stuff, because of course it is. The crowd, obviously, normally at Hillsborough, Derby tend to take 5,000-6,000 fans. Obviously, that's been reduced, so that's a big thing, or certainly a factor. And it's just what the mindset of Wednesday is going to be on Sunday. Our mindset will be that we've got to get something out of the game. Unfortunately, so far this year, other than Bolton, every time we've come up against a team above us and we've needed to impress, we've not. So Unfortunately, I'm gonna say 2-1 Wednesday, but hopefully results elsewhere go Derby's way.
Yeah, mate, we'll take that, of course. Like you said, we don't know what the teams are going to be. Obviously, like you've just said, you can take a loss but still make the playoffs, and then it like two game shootout. We don't know. Me personally, I mean, obviously, before I spoke to you, Jason, I would have preferred to play Peterborough, to be honest, because just of the poor record we've really got against Derby. But obviously, the way you've been talking, I don't care now. I think I want to play Derby. But it is. It's going to be a great game. I'm going to go for a 1-0 Wednesday. I just all depends on how we play, how we set up, who we pick, if we rest players or not. I would take a draw purely for the confidence of not a home loss for the last game of the season going to playoffs. So I would take that, and then obviously, like we said, it's all to play for. If it be Derby or if it could even be Bolton or Pitt. I think there's any of the three that we could actually play.
At the minute, yeah.
Yeah, if you get a good result against us with goals and Bolton lose and all that. So it's we've got a choice there. And it's not travelling 3.5 hours, 4 hours down south on a pretty midweek game anyway. So
no, absolutely.
At least they're all close. But thank you very much, Jason, for joining us. It's been a pleasure. Obviously, not good luck for Sunday, but I hope you have if you wherever you're watching it, if you're going or watching it, have a good day, mate. And thank you very much for joining us. This has been Hello from the Other Side with Jason from the Rams Review, and I'll see you real soon.
All the best, Ash. Cheers, mate.
Cheers, Jason. Thanks a lot.